We are live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the December 3rd regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilman Lees.
Present.
Councilwoman Overby.
Here.
Councilman Bragman.
Here.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's meeting, we have our town historian here, Hugh King, followed by a public hearing to consider Article 5, Chapter 255, to create a pilot program for outdoor dining. We'll follow that with a public comment period and resolutions. But before we get started with Mr. King, I want to talk about something else historic, and that is the pandemic that is raging across our country and now has reached back into East Hampton with really significant spikes in the number of cases we've had in the last several days. We noticed an uptick in town beginning immediately after Halloween. That's been followed by a more significant uptick immediately following Thanksgiving. And we're in the holiday season. Many people are traveling here to visit friends and family. We have children coming home from college. And I just have to urge you all again, please be very careful when you go out. Don't go out really unless you actually have something really important to do. Essential tasks, getting groceries, that sort of thing. We're seeing such a severe spike right now that we will very quickly be back in full lockdown if we don't take measures right now. I cannot emphasize that fact. Right now we have the health department planning on coming to do specific testing in East Hampton School District. We are teetering on the edge of what is known as a yellow zone designation because of the resurgence of the virus and the percentage of infection within the community. The 7-day average was 5.73% positive. We had maintained a below 1% all through the summer and into the fall, and noticed the spike beginning again, particularly right after Halloween.
Okay.
The greatest number of cases are the result of small social gatherings where people are not following the protocols, staying 6 feet apart, wearing a mask, and being diligent about disinfecting their hands and other commonly used surfaces. So please let us keep our businesses open. Let us keep our schools open. Let's keep everyone safe. The life that you save may be your own. So again, please pay attention to what's going on right now. We have up-to-date information, which you can get on the town website at ehamptonny.gov. If you click on testing sites, it will list all the current information for all the testing sites in our area, whether or not appointments are required, whether or not there are charges involved, whether or not you need to have insurance or otherwise. So please, I urge you all to please be safe and be careful during this holiday season. At this point, I'd like to move on to some lighter section of our meeting. We have our town historian, Hugh King, who has asked all of the council people to be prepared to answer specific questions. So Hugh, I'm going to turn it over to you now, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I believe we could start with Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Okay.
And her research into Christmas tree lights.
Right. So you asked me, where did the practice of putting lights on Christmas trees start? So we tend to think of Christmas season traditions as ancient, but most of them are rather recent, born in the 19th century. In 1841, Queen Victoria's husband, Albert, had introduced Britain to the Teutonic Tannenbaum, the Christmas tree, and the idea spread. In the States, President Franklin Pierce put one up at the White House in 1856, and by the 1870s, fresh cut trees were being sold at Washington Square Park and pretty ornaments at Macy's. But what really made a tree a Christmas tree were the candles, and while flickering flames were festive, they were also a fire hazard. In 1880, Thomas Edison patented the light bulb. Although widespread electrification was still decades away, Edison, an investor named Edward Hibbard Johnson from New York City, put up $35,000 to form the Edison Lamp Company to sell these bulbs. Over at the Edison shop, Edward Johnson seized on an opportunity. Setting up a tree by the street side window of his parlor, Johnson hand-wired 80 red, white, and blue light bulbs and strung them together around it and placed the trunk on a revolving pedestal, all powered by a generator. The lights drew a crowd at his home on East 36th Street as passerbys stopped to peer at the glowing marvel. Johnson turned this stunt into a tradition. He also pioneered the practice of doing more each year. An 1884 New York Times article counted 120 bulbs on his dazzling tree. Johnson's lights were indeed ahead of their time. Electricity was not yet routinely available, and they weren't cheap. A string of 16 vaguely flame-shaped bulbs sitting in a brass socket the size of shot glasses sold for a pricey $12 in 1900, which would be about $350 in today's money. In 1894, President Cleveland put electric lights on the White House tree, and by 1914, a 16-foot string cost just $1.75. By the 1930s, colored bulbs and cones were everywhere. Today, an estimated 150 million light sets are sold in America each year. They light 80 million homes and consume 6% of the nation's electrical load each December. Though the contagious joy of these lights has been co-opted orange at Halloween and red at Valentine's Day, it all started with Edward Johnson's Miracle on 36th Street.
Wow. Wow. Anybody have anything to say to that one?
Wow.
Wow.
It was an interesting story. I had no idea. Thank you for having
Thank
me
you.
take a look.
All right, Councilman Leese, I believe you were going to investigate something about Christmas trees.
Yes, and I asked you to purchase another set of lights this morning because I ran out of them for our very large tree. Very specific with our lights at the Leese household.
Whiter color, David.
Okay, so I like wrapping the inside of the tree with white lights for a glow and the outside of the tree with color lights for the effect of the color. So yes, I know.
Can we drive by and see it?
You can see my house from outer space right now. I'm like Clark Griswold right now a little bit. To bring the kids joy.
Okay.
So you asked me about Christmas trees. So the history of Christmas trees goes back to the use of as a symbolic use of evergreens in ancient Egypt and Rome, and still continued with the Germans' tradition of candlelit Christmas trees that were first brought here in the 1800s. In many countries, it was believed that evergreens would keep away witches, ghosts, evil spirits, and illnesses. In our northern hemisphere here, the shortest day and longest night falls on December 21st or the 22nd, depending on the year. And it's called the winter solstice. And so many ancient people believed that the sun was a god and that winter came every year. Because the god came back, the sun god had become sick and weak, and that's why winter came. So they celebrate the solstice because it meant that it was the last sun god They celebrate the solstice because it meant that it was the last the sun god would begin to get well. Individuals then brought evergreen boughs or tree trunks to remind them of that all green plants would grow again and the sun god was strong and summer would return. This brought it to Germany, where Germany is, I believe, credited with starting the first Christmas tree tradition in the 16th century, when devout Christians brought decorated trees into their homes. Some of them built pyramids out of wood and then wrapped them with evergreens around it. And then pretty much what happened is by the early 19th century, Americans found Christmas trees as an oddity, but the first record of one being displayed was in the 1830s by the German settlers of Pennsylvania. And these trees had been a tradition in many German homes much earlier. I believe Kathy alluded to it. And so Christmas trees have been sold commercially in the United States since 1850. They've been sold. I purchased ours at the Kiwanis Club over at the the American Legion in Amagansett. They're there on Saturdays and Sundays from 10 a.m. until dark. If anyone's interested in participating in the local charity. Christmas tree. My history of Christmas trees are that they're grown in every state in America, including Hawaii and Alaska. A mature Christmas tree takes 6 to 8 years to mature. The first tree at Rockefeller Center was placed there in 1931. It was a small one. The bigger ones came in a couple years later. As Kathy mentioned, Franklin Pierce, who was our 14th president, brought the first Christmas tree tradition to the White House during his administration in 1853. In 1923, President Calvin Coolidge started the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony, which is now held every year. Franklin Roosevelt was the one president that did not want a Christmas tree because of his environmental stance. And Kathy, yes, you got to it. Thomas Edison, they did come up with electric lights. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Boy, this is like a primer on Christmas. Okay, Supervisor Van Scoyac, the image of Santa Claus.
Okay, so the image of Santa Claus in America.
Oh, look at you.
So Santa Claus is based on tradition surrounding the historical Saint Nicholas, who was a 4th century Greek bishop and the gift giver of Myra. The Dutch equivalent is Sinterklaas. And as you can see in this image, this is a current day depiction of Sinterklaas in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And in America, the image of Santa Claus was influenced primarily by 2 people. One of them in literary form, Clement Clark Moore's 1823 poem, A Visit from Santa Claus, which is more commonly known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And a little side note, my deceased brother, Chuck, his godfather is a descendant of Clement Clark Moore, who on occasion, when we gathered with them around Christmas, would lament that his predecessor had not copyrighted.
Yeah.
But what really is the person most responsible in my research for the image of Santa Claus. Can you see that image now?
Nope, not
No.
yet.
It's the original image.
No, let me try one more. How about that guy?
There we
Yes.
Okay, so this is
Yep.
more in line with what. I'm sorry, did I change
No, that's
screen
good.
on you? So that's more in line with our current image of Santa Claus. And the person responsible for that image is a Bavarian immigrant named Thomas Nash, who was really an extraordinary political cartoonist. And in 1863, he put together let me see if I can share this. Just bear with me a moment. He did a cartoon, Civil War era cartoon. You can see Santa Claus is sitting on a sleigh, and there's a drum behind him. And if you look carefully in his hand, there's a traditional Christmas type of, sometimes you see him as wooden soldiers, sometimes you see him as Santa Claus's children's toy, which you can hang and you can pull a string in the bottom and it makes the legs and the arms kick up and down. Well, this is Jefferson Davis. And rather than having the string come out of the top of his head like the toys generally do, that's a noose around his neck. He was a political cartoonist who, was really renowned for having a huge impact on politics to the point where, according to General Grant, no person did as much. A person who did as much as any one man to preserve the Union and bring the war to an end. That's according to Ulysses S. Grant. So while they say the pen is mightier than the sword, one might say that the cannon is lesser to the cartoon. So cartoon mightier than the canon, perhaps. So the 1881 Harper's publication had what I think is the closest to what we now consider Santa Claus. Can you see that one?
Nope.
Not yet.
Cartoon.
Yeah, okay. Thought he had these things ready to roll as a slideshow.
There we go.
So this is actually also a political cartoon, although you wouldn't know it from just looking at it. But in 1881, Nash was lobbying. He was very much pro-military and supporting the military in the country. And he was lobbying for a pay raise for the Army. And if you look very carefully, the sack of toys is really a military backpack that soldiers would have carried. You see the ribbon comes down and it says US on it here. He's wearing a military sword as well. And so this was, I guess, somewhat veiled political comment, but that's where it really began, was with Thomas Nash, who had 33 different versions of Santa Claus published in Harper's over a 23-year period from, I guess it was 1863 until 1886. He's also known for having given us the Democratic donkey and the Republican elephant.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He also was the cartoonist who characterized Boss Tweed during
Yes.
the Tammany Hall. He was
Absolutely. Yeah. He was very hard on the corrupt New York politicians, and even had cartoons depicting the Statue of Liberty encouraging funding of its pedestal and its erection. And then he has some others that are a little darker with the Statue of Liberty. But he's a really interesting cartoonist, political cartoonist, and people should really look it up because there are a lot of fascinating cartoons he did.
Thank you. Yay, yay, yay. Wow. Councilwoman Overby, the Christmas card.
Sure. So how did Christmas cards originate? So it was 1843 in Victorian England, and Henry Cole wanted to send Christmas letters, which was a tradition at the time, to as many friends. But as you all know, letters are, takes a lot of time to write a letter. So with the new British postal system and something called a penny post postcard, Cole asked his artist friend to design a card that he could send to his friends acknowledging Christmas.
Yeah.
The image was of a family celebrating a holiday feast, flanked by a sketch of people helping the poor on either side of the holiday feast family. It was simply said at the top, to, and he could write in who it was to, and then he could sign it at the bottom where it said from. In the middle, it said the message, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So this is credited as being the first Christmas card. In America, Louis Prang, who was a German-Prussian immigrant, had a print shop in Boston and is credited with creating the first Christmas cards originating in the United States in 1875. The card was a painting of a flower, and it read Merry Christmas. And for about 30 years, most Christmas cards were of nature, either animals, flowers, a tree. They weren't, anyway, that was the sentiment, is to have a natural setting for your Christmas card. The modern Christmas card industry began in 1950 in Kansas City, where a small postcard printing company started by Joyce Hall and later joined by his two brothers, published its first Christmas card and soon adopted the new format of a folded card inserted into an envelope. And we know that company today as Hallmark.
Mark, yes.
So that is the Christmas story. And I just want to add a little one from a friend of mine in Boston who sent me an email the other day and said, in the time of a COVID pandemic and great need, she is starting a program called the Christmas Card Punt and Pledge. And what she is doing is saying, I'm not spending money on Christmas cards. I am punting to food pantries. And she would like everyone to say the amount that they would spend on Christmas cards, to please use that money and spend it and send it to a food pantry of your choice. So although I think I already have my Christmas cards done, I am still going to do the punt and pledge and send money to our local food pantry. And I hope everyone else does as well.
It's a
That's
great
a terrific idea, Sylvia.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, this guy, Henry Coyle, who had these cards printed up, he had too many of them. So that's how they got be sold in stores. He wound up giving them to stores to sell because he had too many of them. That's great.
He printed over 1,000 in the first time printing. So he must have thought he had 1,000 friends. I don't know.
He wished, yeah. Okay, and last but not least is the Reader's Digest condensed version of the history of the Jewish Center.
There's a longer history here than I knew, and a lot more names.
Yeah.
So fasten your seatbelts.
Okay.
It started in the 1950s.
You said the condensed version.
Well, I still have to start in the 1950s when most of the Jewish community was over in Sag Harbor at Temple of God. And at one point in time, David Gilmartin, an attorney whom I worked with a little bit, came and offered to buy it. And the offer was rejected, and that sort of propelled a group of congregants to look for a space in East Hampton for the first time in its history and start over. And two of the earlier ones were Irv Markowitz, who many of us knew, and Bernard Zeldin. And one of their they were accountants, and one of their clients owned the Buick dealership in the village. And they approached, I guess Will Strong was his name. He was involved in the Presbyterian Church, and they asked if they could use the session house there to worship. And the church elders agreed and let them stay there as a synagogue for a pretty good while without paying any rent or anything.
Wow.
They were very sensitive to the new congregant sensibilities. They covered up some of the Christian imagery with a curtain so that they'd feel more comfortable. They were very welcoming. And sometime after that, the church ran into some trouble with their pipe organ, they were going to have to do a fundraiser there. And one of the first fundraisers that the Jewish congregation made was to help them buy the church organ. And they did a collection and as a thank you to the Presbyterian Church, helped them do the repairs. And eventually, what happened is some farmland came available on the market, and the bank, the Osborne Trust Company, a name that we've probably all heard of, loaned 10 of the congregants money to buy this farmland. It was like 4 acres, and they were going to build a temple there. And at about that point in time is when the two characters that we know better, Evan Frankel and a man named Jack Kaplan, sort of found out about it and became pretty substantial donors in the effort to build a synagogue. Interestingly, Jack Kaplan was a self-made guy who grew up in the molasses business in Canada and became the president of the Welsh's grape juice company. So he was a very powerful businessman. And eventually, Evan Frankel, who also had a very interesting history as a self-made magnate in the real estate business, wound up buying the property on Woods Lane and offered it to the congregation rent-free to use. Eventually, they had some discussions with Evan and Jack. I want to say Jack Welsh, but Jack Kaplan, and together sort of surprised them by arranging a meeting with them in Doug Dayton's office, as a matter of fact. There are a lot of names in this history that we all know, and presented them with the deed to the property, and Jack Kaplan made the first substantial contribution to the synagogue. And after that, they kind of got off on a wing and a prayer, and everybody worked for, without salaries, and ran the Sunday school, and the rest is history. And now it's the beautiful building that we all know so well. And that's how it happened. It involved many more people than I ever dreamed of. And I want to thank Rabbi Joshua Franklin, who happened to have a little local history written by the founder and the first president of the Jewish Center of the Hamptons.
You know
And
that.
also Avril Geist. She had some information too.
Yeah, well, you should get that information put together and give it to the Long Island room.
I can do that. I was very surprised when I reached out to Joshua, and he said, well, there's something in Philistines at the Hedgerow has a description of Evan Frankel. And I happen to have that book lying around. I was reading it, but he said, oh, I have something you might be interested in, because it has tells more of the deeper tale and has more of the names. It's incredible, the list of names. We all know them, Alan York and the Markowitzes and many others.
Yeah,
the
but
Kaufmans.
the idea that it began in the session house of the Presbyterian Church, I never heard that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
That's a wonderful part of the story in my mind.
Yeah.
It is. And I have to tell you, I have to tell you something that affects me in the whole story, because it's such an ecumenical gesture, and it was so neighborly. And I want to tell you that when I was something of a younger lawyer out here, we always read the title reports from properties. And I remember it being in my office, I think on Newtown Lane, and in the old days before there were copying machines, they were handwritten, and very neat handwritten covenants and restrictions. And I remember the first time I was reading through one, and I saw that it was a very precisely legally worded covenant and restriction against selling the property to people of color or people of the Jewish religion.
Yeah, right.
And it was, kind of a shocker, but for me, it's a hopeful sign of what a different era we live in, and that cooperation between the Presbyterian Church and the Jewish congregation is, much in keeping with the current sentiment of Christmas.
There seems to be an underlying recurrent theme in our holiday traditions in America, and it relates to immigrants coming with their own traditions and sharing those traditions, and how the traditions have changed over time, and how some of them haven't changed a bit. But, the fact that we're tolerant of each other and accepting of new ideas, I think really speaks volumes about what America can be and should be, and I hope destined to be.
Wow. I have one thing and then I'll leave you, okay? December 23rd, 1951, Santa Claus arrived on a plane. He landed on the village green. Then the plane went down Main Street with Santa on top of it, went to the Edwards Theater, where Santa Claus gave out presents, and they showed a movie. How about that?
That's amazing.
That's quite an entrance.
Yeah.
So next time, right? Next time we maybe could all share one of our favorite Christmas memories or Hanukkah memories, okay? Next time. How's that?
Sounds good.
Thank you all for doing that research. This has been wonderful.
Hugh, as always, a real pleasure to have you with us today, and to share history with us. And I appreciate you helping us keep history alive.
Yeah.
So
Good.
stay safe and be well.
Thank you. Thank you all.
At this point, we'll continue on with our meeting, and we'll begin with our public hearing. Carol, if you'd please read the roll call.
Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, December 3rd at 2 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider comments of all persons either for or against a local law entitled, a local law amending Article 5 of Chapter 255, Special Permit Uses, with regard to creating a pilot program to allow transfer of indoor dining use to outdoor space. allows the principal building inspector to grant special permits to allow greater flexibility as to placement of indoor dining occupancy in outdoor spaces. Due to the public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19, the town board will not be meeting in person. In accordance with the governor's executive order 202.1, the 21st of May 2020 meeting of the board will be held via video conferencing. On a transcript will be provided at a later date. The public will have the opportunity to see and hear the meeting live and provide comments. The public can watch the live meeting on local TV channel 22 and live online from the public meetings link on the LTV website. If any interested members of the public would like to provide comments on the public hearing, comments can be called in during the meeting at the call-in number provided on the town's website and displayed on the live feed at the time of the hearing, 351-888-6331. Pursuant to the requirements of the executive order of the governor of the state of New York, transcript will be prepared of the public hearing and a copy shall be filed with the town clerk and placed upon the town's website. Comments will be accepted in writing by the town board to be received by email to cbrennan@ehamptonny.gov or by mail to the town clerk, 9 Panago Road, East Hampton, and actually received by December 18th or 1 week after the posting of the hearing transcript, whichever is later. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the website for any changes to the instructions to access of the virtual meeting and for updated information.
Thank you, Carol. The town board's had several town board work sessions to discuss this proposed legislation, and we have it in a final form, which is being heard today. And we have our senior town attorney, Nancy Lynn Thiel, here to give a brief overview. Nancy Lynn?
Thank you, Supervisor. As you said, we've just recently discussed this, so I just want to, for the purposes of the hearing, just read to you the intent of the legislation and very briefly summarize it. The town board desires to determine whether there is a means to create flexibility in the manner that restaurants operate at different times of the year under various weather conditions and or in reaction to emergency circumstances such as brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. This pilot program is not intended to replace or circumvent the planning board or site plan requirements in general, but only to allow for adjustments in the placement of dining use on the approved property. The town board is considering this program to be implemented as a special permit process so that compliance with the conditions thereof can be more easily enforced and the potential negative impact on the neighborhood and town as a whole can be minimized. The legislation sets it up under our special permit area of our zoning code. It includes in there all the information that anyone would need in order to know what is eligible, what would be allowed, and how that is determined, and how to we would then, since it's an application to the building inspector, if this legislation were to pass, we would assist her in developing a application form that we would then post on our website so that people would be able to take advantage of this program and get their information in a efficient manner so that these could be processed hopefully before next spring.
Thank you, Nancy Lynn. Michael, do we have, Sylvia, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that the Business Recovery Group did go through this several times and were part of the process. They didn't get everything on their wish list that they were hoping for, but as we were trying to say to everyone, in this restaurant business, that we're here to help, and this is going to help. It isn't going to be everything, and it isn't paralleling the emergency that we are now in with the pandemic. So, but it is to help and see what would be, part of our code in the future if these things work out to be helpful to our restaurants.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Michael, do we have any callers on the line for this hearing?
No, we do not, Mrs. Supervisor. There are no callers right now.
Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion to close.
Oh, we have resolution. Oh, but you don't want to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, do you want to wait till the end of the meeting to see if any other callers come in?
Yeah,
We could hold it open.
I think that's that's what I was thinking too.
Okay, so I think let's just leave it open and see if other callers come in at
In
any
that
point.
case, Michael, do we still have no callers on the line?
We do not have any callers on the line, and I
In
will.
that case, we'll move directly to resolutions. Kathy?
Great, sure.
resolution
Starting with
present?
Resolution 2020-1118. It's approval of the warrant. Claims total $9,339,451.34. The utility warrant totals $35,848.05. And when I first saw this resolution, I said, oh, the poor town board member that had to do a warrant for a $9 million warrant. But I soon found out that $3.2 million was for CPF acquisition and $4.4 million was for retirement payments to New York State for 4 quarters. So, which that accounts for a little over 70% of the warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
1119 is a budget modification for human services. We're moving $200 from in-home services telephone to human services telephone service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2020-1120. This is a notice of public hearing, whereas the town of East Hampton is considering an amendment to Chapter 240 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 240-62, Schedule 12, no stopping, to address certain safety concerns in the area by prohibiting stopping of vehicles along certain portions of Soak Heights Road. Chapter 240 Vehicles and Traffic is will be publicly heard to amend it to add the following language to Chapter 240-62 schedule, and this should be amended to Schedule 12, no stopping. The name of the street is Soak Heights, the north side. It's from intersection of 3 Mile Harbor Road to the east side of the parking lot entrance of property, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-120-2-15. That's the property of Dave Mark's Deli. And then Soak Heights Road south, the entire length from the intersection of 3 Mile Harbor Road to the west property line, a parcel of Suffolk County Tax Map 300-122-5-11. The public hearing will be held on December 17th, 2020 at 11 a.m. or soon after it can be heard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2020-1121. This is a notice of public hearing to consider a local law amending Chapter 73 aircraft of the town code regulating operations of seaplanes and water subject to the town of East Hampton's jurisdiction. Let me just scroll down. The legislative intent is the town is an established resort community whose entire economy is intrinsically tied to the use and enjoyment of its natural and scenic environment, including its world-renowned ocean beaches, wetlands, shorelines, harbors, bays, woodlands, inland lakes, and historical hamlets. Visitors and residents alike enjoy East Hampton's unique scenic beauty, and the town has made significant efforts to preserve and ensure the continued vitality of its visitors and residents' ability to safely engage in the outdoor recreational activities. A central aspect of this is ensuring that the town is free from undue hazard and does not pose unnecessary dangers to those enjoying the natural and scenic environment, including those engaged in outdoor recreational activities in the waters within the town's jurisdiction. The town has a public policy responsibility to protect the public health and safety and general welfare of the town's residents. It also needs to continue to regulate activities that threaten the value and the safety of real and personal property located within the town. Under this authority, consistent with its inherent police powers, the town has determined that it is necessary to prohibit seaplane operations from mooring, docking, launching, operating, taxiing, and otherwise being used in any of the waters within the town's jurisdiction. Such seaplane operations constitute a public nuisance and safety hazard and cannot be permitted to continue consistent with the town's responsibility to protect its residents and visitors. Therefore, the town's beaches, harbors, inland lakes, and bays must be kept free of seaplane usage to prevent damage to property and/or risk of injury or death to those enjoying the outdoor recreational activities offered by the town's unique nature and scenic environment. So overall, moreover, we're looking to prohibit The use of seaplane operation on the town's water is consistent with the town's ability to control the location over which aircraft and helicopters take off and land. This local control is reserved to the town and does not affect the federal or state law. Indeed, municipalities have always had the authority to determine the location from which aircraft take off and land. Courts, as well as the FAA, have recognized this authority since the dawn of flight. This amendment is a simple and logical extension of the town's desire to protect its residents and visitors from seaplane operation within the town's waters. The town's police powers and zoning authority is hereby exercised to prohibit all seaplanes operations within the town's waters. We will be changing Chapter 73.1 of the Town Code, the amendment to prohibit the landing or takeoff or taxi of helicopters on or from the waters, beaches, or from any land within the town of East Hampton except on Garner's Island, the town airport, and the Montauk Airport, and to prohibit the landing, takeoff, or taxi of enplaning or deplaning of any seaplane on from town beaches or waterways, trustee waters and beaches, town waters, town docks, and or floats, and to provide an exception to aircraft operated by the federal, state, or local government, any emergency services, evacuation services, public or private, and any operation of an aircraft in an emergency, and accepting from the such regulations seaplane operations that originate or terminate in at Garner's Island. A full text of this proposed law shall be available from the town's clerk's office and will be available online at the town's website. The public hearing for this will be held on Thursday, January 7th, 2021. I need to amend that to January 7th, 2021 at 2 p.m.
Can we have some discussion, please?
Of course. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just wanted to add a comment. I'd like to claim a little credit with respect to this this resolution, because early on when we had the neighbors come to town board and bring the situation to our attention, I did some research and legal research, because the real critical question is whether the town actually had the police power to affect this kind of restriction. And I was actually kind of surprised that I found an older case from 1969, People versus Altman, which covered the issue. It was really a little bit of a surprise to me. And I forwarded that on to counsel, to our airport counsel in California, and it's recited in the law as a part of the basis for our ability to regulate. And I'm happy to have been a part of a team effort here. David and I kind of worked on separate tracks, but parallel tracks, and I'm always happy to be part of the team when it's possible to do that. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Your participation along with the rest of town board is duly noted. Do we have a second or any further discussion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
I'd like to offer and we have to do that as amended to 2021.
I'm sorry, as amended to 2021. Thanks.
Resolution, I'd like to offer resolution 2020-1122 is a budget modification for aquaculture. Modification from upgrade from windows at the hatchery building. This will take $1,500 from part-time to contractors.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
I'd like to offer resolution, give me one moment. Resolution 2020-1123. This is going to increase the cap for outside counsel for 2020 for the law offices of Con and Con. Town of East Hampton retained the law offices of Con and Con by resolution 2020-209 on February 6th of 2020. This is for outside counsel to represent the town in various matters, including the Ron Barron case. The affirmation case, the allotted amount originally was, this has to be amended to $35,000. And with this amount being exceeded, the litigation is still pending. We are looking to increase the cap another $25,000 to a total, constituting a grand total of $60,000 for the calendar year 2020.
I'll second. Where is the whereas clause? It needs to go to 35,000.
Third paragraph. Okay. A lot of amount for the aforementioned case was is actually supposed to be $35,000, which was initially allotted.
Okay. Second is amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2020-1124 to accept the change order 1 bid EH 19036 for the Montauk Shellfish Hatchery alterations, where we accepted the bid 19036, accepted by a bid of Lipsky Enterprises. And the town would like to require additional work consisting of replacement of 2 additional bathroom windows. We received a proposal on July 31st, 2020 for such work, and the cost would be $3,760 to bring the total contract up to $163,560.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-1125 is a notice of public hearing for local law to adopt Chapter 155 landscaping. This is affectionately known as our leaf blower law. And it will be scheduled for Thursday, December the 17th at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed
Aye.
and carried.
Resolution 2020-1126 is a notice of public hearing to amend Chapter 185 noise of the town of the East Hampton Town Code. This is going along with the leaf blower legislation, so we had to also amend 2 other codes within our code for the leaf blower legislation. And this is the one for that will be changed in noise. And it is also going to be heard on December the 17th at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-1127 is a notice of public hearing to amend Chapter 156 is the home improvement contractors. This is also to accommodate the leaf blower legislation. And this is so that the landscapers are now going to be part of the home improvement contractors, and will also the licensing review board will also be used in determining anything that they need through this amendment. So this is also to be heard on December the 17th at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-1128 is Eichner grant of a scenic and conservation easement for lots 15 and 16 to schedule a public hearing. The public hearing will be on December 17th at 11 a.m. This is for Lynn Eichner, and it's a scenic and conservation easement at 49 and 55 Fairview Avenue in Montauk, and the reviewing agency is Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-1129 is Eichner grant of scenic and conservation easement, schedule a public hearing. And this is for a different lot 14.01. And it's also for December 17th, 2020 at 11 a.m. This is located at 39 Fairview Avenue in Montauk, also for Lynn Eichner, and the reviewing agency is Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-1130 is to amend Chapter 240-58, which is our schedule of stop intersections in the town of East Hampton. And this would add some stop signs on Middle Highway and Old Orchard Lane. And it's been the subject of 2 work sessions. And the public hearing is scheduled on December 17th, 2020 at 11 a.m. And it's subject to the COVID restrictions, which keeps the record open until after we've filed a transcript of the hearing and then waited a week after that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-1131 is to retain HMMH regarding operations and noise complaint analysis. That word should be amended to read complaint, not compliant analysis in 2020. At the work at rate set forth in a proposal not to exceed $40,715 payable from outside professional line.
I have a question. This is just the airport. So, even, to this day, we're getting complaints up to over 200, some of them a day. So I was hoping that we would have, and I had asked you to see if you could expand that.
Yeah, I do recall we had a discussion about that, and because we think now that with the pandemic and our population changing and likely to be changed for some time, that we should account for the additional flights and changes in.
Yes, I recall that. I believe that this was the completion. There's two different aspects to the work. If you want to enact this is the completion of some work, and I can bring back another resolution, or I can combine the two in a later resolution and table this.
I'm confused. I didn't think it was the completion of any work. This is just the 2020 analysis.
Right, we haven't had anything.
It's the annual review and analysis
Right.
of
And
that.
then, but I would like to,
I refer that the 2020 analysis is the completion because they had done the 2019 analysis. So this is the 2020 analysis.
what I would recommend is we adopt this and then ask them for a second proposal to do the September through October, if that's the window we want to study. So at least they could get started working on the 2020.
I did notify them of that, so I'll offer this resolution for 2020 and come back to you with another one.
Unless there's money built into the
Well, that's just it. I don't know
40,015
what
to do.
Right. I would like to,
So you're not sure what this reflects, Jeff, whether it reflects just the
yeah. I would like
annual.
to see what it reflects.
Well, the whereas
Well,
says
in
it
case
reflects,
we want-
it
what it
reflects.
In case we should go ahead and approve it, and Jeff, you
Yeah, I think
on whether it covers the additional or not.
Yeah, there's no whereas clause that says that it does the additional. It just says
Right.
that it's for the implementation period, which is the summer season.
Yeah.
When the,
Exactly. So it's the annual implementation period analysis.
Yeah,
So
as-
we have a
as a-
second on that?
as amended. It's got a typo in the first one.
okay, right,
Okay.
operations and noise
Second
complaint
amended.
analysis. Second is amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 2020-1132 is to bond $130,000 additional downtown Montauk wastewater management initiative, authorizing the preparation of plans, studies, and specifications and estimates in connection with downtown wastewater management initiative. We have
Second,
a second, and a roll call, please, Carol.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
aye.
Councilman Bragman,
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
So resolution 1133 is to appoint part-time school crossing guard William Field at an hourly rate of $20 per hour, effective retroactive November 2nd.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 1134 is to promote Ed Schnell to Network Communications Specialist A and amend Schedule A. And that is in the amount of, this is to authorize finance office to issue a check through payroll period to the appropriate budget accounts for the difference in hourly salary from January 1st, 2020 through November 1st, 2020. November 21st, 2020. And that's payrolls number 1 through 21 for a gross total of $14,427.68. We initially put this promotion in the budget. Eddie's worked within that title essentially, and it's done that work, and we've finally gotten approval from the civil service as to the job title, and you can see sometimes how long it takes to get things through. So we have a second. All in favor?
Can I have I have a question on this? Just
Sure.
a question. And it's just a technical question. We're going retroactive, I believe, if I read this correctly, to a time before he was qualified, that he tested as qualified. And I wanted to know if is that
I don't think that's the question, whether he tested qualified. He was reachable for the position, and he had to go through the eligibility list and whatnot. So all that checked out. It just took a long time for that to happen. And again, that was a budgeted promotion.
I understand. I'm just wondering whether you can go retroactive before you've qualified by taking the test. Because I think that's what this resolution says.
I don't think that's actually what it says.
Not how I interpreted it.
No? Okay. Maybe I misread it.
It is going retroactive. It's paying for him for pay that he should have received as a course of his duties throughout the year. We're now making up that difference.
I guess the question I was asking is when was the qualifying test? When did the qualifying test occur?
He was already qualified for the promotion. I don't believe he had to take the test.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to get
Second.
clarification on that.
It's a little unusual situation because normally when a person gets the promotion, they get paid for that promotion, immediately beginning in the year. So.
I
Do
seconded.
we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. 2020-1135 is to approve East Hampton Water Supply District Fire Protection Agreement. And this is for such services during each 12-month period from 2021 to 2022. The town shall pay the sum of $891,935 as follows: $571,378 to the Village of East Hampton for fire protection services, $137,221 Village of East Hampton for ambulance services, $98,979 East Hampton Fire Department, Cedar Street, $59,612 East Hampton Village Ambulance Association, and $24,745 the Village of East Hampton for maintenance of firewalls and cisterns.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried, and we want to thank our frontline workers, our volunteer firemen and ambulance service personnel, and everyone who's associated with those operations that keep us safe. 1135 is to approve the Northwest Fire Protection District Agreement with the Village of East Hampton. And that is for a 12-month period in each of 2021 and 2022. The town shall pay $1.728756 in each calendar year as follows: $1,205,743 East Hampton for fire protection services, the Village of $230,576 to the Village of East Hampton for ambulance services, $185,584 to the East Hampton Fire Department, $76,484 to the Village of East Hampton Ambulance Association, and $30,369 to the Village of East Hampton for maintenance of firewalls and cisterns.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 1136 is budget modification, staffing in Parks and Recreation, and this is related to COVID demands in the department. It's adding $17,000 to the revenue line from parking lot revenues, adding the same amount to the expense line to cover overtime in buildings and grounds, moving from $600 from part-time recreation to overtime recreation, and moving $2,300 from part-time parks to overtime in parks.
Can you check on the number that this resolution is supposed to be? Mine is
1137. Did I say 36?
You did. You said 36.
Yeah, you know what it is I was trying to save paper from the first printing.
Right. Okay.
And
I did the same thing.
because that one resolution got switched to Kathy, it threw,
Yeah.
and then I renumbered and realized that it didn't change the numbers
Okay.
on my end.
All right. Second. As amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll pass and carried. And 1138 is budget modification for buildings and grounds, and that is moving $300 from one line to another line for work to be done on the Montauk generator. At the
Second.
lighthouse.
At the generator. Yeah.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 1139 is to authorize an access for testing in Madison Hills monitoring wells. We covered this at our Tuesday meeting. And this is in Camp Hero. The formerly utilized defense site, or FUDS, is undergoing the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, CERCLA, review. And this resolve is town board hereby authorizes and directs the supervisor to execute an access agreement with the United States of America to permit access to town property at Camp Hero. It's kind of funny the way that reads, but yes, it is the United States of America.
Second.
We're allowing access. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 1140 is the approved memorandum of agreement with Suffolk County. This is the school bus stop arm camera program. And that program allows for law enforcement to very efficiently give tickets through that camera program to anyone who tries passing a school bus with the stop arm out, which is obviously a really dangerous maneuver. So the town board hereby approves the East Hampton Town's participation in Suffolk County School Bus Stop Arm Law Program and authorizes and directs supervisor to execute memorandum of agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Do we have any other resolutions to offer? At this point, we'll go back to Jason. I think you're now moderating for LTV.
No, it's still Mike, Mr. Supervisor.
Still Mike, okay.
We do have a caller on the line, but I just want to let you know a couple of minutes ago, I had an internet dropout here at the station. There was about 10 to 20 seconds where there wasn't.
That's why I thought you had changed with Jason.
Okay. I just wanted to
So,
publicly acknowledge that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I saw it.
And we have a caller on the line if you'd like to take that.
Absolutely.
One moment, please. I'm going to unmute that caller right now.
Good afternoon, Town Board. This is David Buddha. Can you hear me?
Hi, David. How are you?
Good. I missed my opportunity to speak earlier. I didn't want to sign in or call in during the public hearing, and then you just kind of blew right past the earlier opportunity. But that's okay, because having listened to the resolutions, I actually have two more important things that I would like to say now after the fact. First of all, with regard to the resolution introducing the proposed law regulating seaplanes, I want to thank Councilman Lease and Councilman Bragman for their work on this matter. As someone who occasionally does stand-up paddleboarding in Gardeners Bay, there's nothing more frightening than the prospect of having a seaplane come bearing down on you as it tries to approach the shore. So I appreciate that. Also, I'd like to compliment whoever, whether it be council people, town attorneys, or outside attorneys, who prepared the resolution. It's an extraordinarily detailed model of preemptive writing to prevent a successful legal challenge. You've put all of the cards on the table there, and therefore it's quite well worded and appreciated.
Great. Thank you, David. A great deal of time was put into that.
It's not often that we have a legislative intent incorporated into a resolution, and rarely does the legislative intent actually get codified. Sometimes it should and sometimes it doesn't, but certainly in this circumstance, because of the prospect of potential adverse litigation, it certainly is important to spell it all out to fairly well, so I appreciate that. Second topic. I was doing some quick research since, did I just get lost? Am I still there?
No, you're here. Somebody just got an email.
I heard a dong. I thought that was the gong, you know.
No, that's a different show. It's been suggested, but not. Please continue.
Okay. Resolution 2020-1134 with regard to promoting Mr. Schnell, it's well deserved. He's obviously been doing the job, a yeoman's job, of getting the emergency communications system near to being up and running. And the good news is that in the recently given civil service exam By the way, I should preface this by saying I'm pretty familiar with civil service rules and regulations and exams and qualifications because for a number of years I participated in the system, although it was unfruitful. Mr. Schnell was scored position number 1, a score of 100, although there were 38 other people or 37 other people. He certainly is well qualified for this promotion. The civil service exam title of Network Communication Specialist, open competitive exam, was given in October, but the eligible list, countywide eligible list, which is number 19-1809-222, was not established until March the 13th of this year. So I think you have a typographical error in your resolution, because I know from every other previous experience, when someone qualifies for a promotion or a new civil service classification, it's always made retroactive to the effective date of the establishment of the list. Now, in this case, I believe you asked the county for a East Hampton only list, but still, that can only be only created after March 13th of 2020. So I think your effective date needs to be reviewed. The second thing is, I went back quickly and looked at your 2019 budget, 2020 budget, 2021 budget for these positions that Mr. Schnell has had or will have. And I think possibly there's another typographical error in the resolution as far as the amount of the base salary. It doesn't seem to correspond with the amount stated in the 2020 budget or the 2021 budget. And the difference between prior pay and current pay being $14,000 plus for 11 months doesn't seem to make sense and coordinate with the $78,455 number. It may be correct, there may be some explanation, but I think you should just carefully look it over, because frequently, I think you'll admit, errors are made and then have to be corrected by subsequent resolutions with regard to steps and scales and commencement dates. So this is a personnel matter that is unusual to go back 11 months and turn back the clock and try to give him what he deserves, which he admittedly deserves, but you have to do it obviously within the scope of the law. And I don't think you can go earlier than March.
Yeah, and David, we'll certainly bring those questions up with the HR department.
Okay, and then the other thing I'd like to mention is, and the only reason I get off on this is because I like to consider myself as positively contributing fiscal conservative watchdog activities, and sometimes it's significant whether I'm questioning CPF overpaying for certain property, or the town proposal to give away a dedicated and accepted road cul-de-sac, or a proposal to overpay excessive amount of unused vacation pays for a retiring employee in contravention of established policies, or even a small amount such as a cost of no more than 30-foot fence replacement for a liability claim. I think it's important, obviously, to dot the I's, cross the T's, and count every penny, because it's the taxpayers' buck that's at issue, and I think we all have to be extremely careful and prudent, and make sure that every penny is saved where it appropriately can be. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I agree with you, and I appreciate your comments today. Stay safe and be well.
You too.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. I guess it's not too early to say happy holidays.
You'll have another chance.
Thanks for taking the time to call us today, David. And Michael, do we have any other callers on the line?
No, we do not.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Any other matter to bring before the board? I would just like to say in closing and re-emphasize again that we have seen a dramatic spike in the number of cases within our town of East Hampton in the last several days. The most recent data that we have at Town Hall. Just to give you an idea, on 11/29, November 29th, there were 481 cases reported between the period of March 10th, I believe, and the 29th of November. 481. The following day, there were 8 more cases. The day after that, there were 14 more cases. You can see the exponential rate at which this is spreading. And we had been very flat in the number of cases we had right up until really Halloween. And from Halloween on, within every hamlet, we've had cases expanding, and very dramatically after Thanksgiving. I urge everyone to please, please, please don't even go out and be around others unless you absolutely have to. And if you do, make sure that you're following all the safety protocols. You shouldn't be gathering socially indoors without masks with anyone outside of your own household. You need to be taking those precautions. Stay safe. The life you may save might be your own. This disease knows no boundaries in terms of age, demographic, and underlying health. People who are perfectly healthy and young can get this disease and die from it. This is very serious. While we have the vaccines have been announced to be distributed, it's unlikely that we will see a meaningful distribution of those vaccines within our greater community for months yet. So we need to take every precaution to ensure that our businesses can continue to stay open and function. Nobody wants to go back through the very painful spring that we've had. We are in a process of retrograde now. We're very close to being yellow zone, which means that further restrictions will be put in place. Limiting the number of people that can gather indoors or outdoors will be reduced to 25, a maximum of 10 people indoors, 50% maximum capacity at houses of worship. Businesses remain open, but restaurants, even indoor and outdoor dining, will restrict the number of persons at a table to no more than 4. As you know, they're currently required to close at 10 p.m. The next step means that we're heading for takeout and delivery only for our restaurants. That'd be devastating for them. You know, they've worked so hard to try and accommodate and adjust to what's been a very challenging time. So let's save ourselves from the pain, the anguish. Let's be careful. Please take this very seriously. We are really seeing a huge upsurge. So stay safe, everyone. And I wish you all well and hope to see you again before the holidays are over, even if virtually.
Yeah, motion to close.
All in favor?
Peter, can we go into a brief exec just for a contract discussion?
I'll entertain a motion to go into exec for a contract discussion.
Motion to go into exec for a contract.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll send the link immediately. Stay safe and be well, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.